Welcome to the Be Here Now Guest Podcast. This series features a collection of teachings and conversations centered around mindfulness, spiritual growth, and living a life in balance. Each week, our diverse network of guest teachers and hosts offer up wisdom and practices from a different spiritual path and perspective. If you would like to support this podcast, please visit BeHereNowNetwork.com/donate.
So I have two full-time jobs. I'm 76. I have three jobs. I'm going to give you the third one. I am an aging CEO in the fine tradition of Raghu and Joe Biden and me. We're looking for the next generation to pick up the slack a little bit and get it going. So Dharma Moon is kind of a legacy project in itself. We're thinking that we're training the next generation of teachers, even 2 generations down. In the Buddhist tradition, which I am practitioner of, lineage is a very important piece. So it's quite consciously passed down from generation to generation. I studied Tibetan Buddhism. I met my teacher in 1970 at a yoga studio in Boston, just to tie those threads together. And the Kagyu lineage of Tibetan Buddhism goes back about 800 years. So it's different than a little bit than how we think of it in the West. You know, everything's new age, right? It's just like, so this is old age. You ready? At least middle-aged. So the Buddhist tradition has kind of, I'm presenting from what's called the Vajrayana Tantric Buddhist tradition, which is quite connected to the Bhakti tradition in a way, in that devotion and surrender and kind of the use of imagery, the use of the imagination, the mind, is and the connection with the teacher, guru principle is strong there. So in some ways, I have a stronger connection with the Bhaktis than with other Buddhists. It's just true. But the Buddhist tradition has tiers, you know, if you want to get it has a ladder, you know, like Stairway to Heaven, kind of Led Zeppelin, right? So we start at the beginning, and that's what we're going to really do today, is like, what's the foundation? A lot of people are building houses these days without foundations, have you noticed? And they're just kind of floating in the air and floating away. So the idea is, what's the foundation of any of these practices? Somebody shout it out. What's the foundation? Yeah, don't laugh. Practice. Mindfulness, okay. Love. Awareness. Okay, so we're all basically on the same page. That's good. But working with oneself comes first. Right? If we don't know who we are, if we're not grounded in our own life properly, in our own body, in our own emotional framework, the spiritual aspiration can spiral off into wishful thinking, to be very blunt about it. And this is something my teacher called spiritual materialism, that we have to be careful that we don't just take on a goal-oriented approach and say, how fast can I get there, you know? So we go slow. The Buddhists are famous for slowing up the pace, but we'll get to nirvana. We're going to get there. And ironically, it's kind of like the Wizard of Oz. When you get there, maybe you realize that you were there the whole time. Would you say that's true? Okay. So that brings us to a way I want to talk, which is based on how we talk about stuff. It's creating a scheme of how to look at something, right? Anything, tennis, government. What's the view? What is the perspective? So view comes first. So the first part of my talk is going to be view-oriented. What is the outlook that we're talking about? What are we suggesting that you consider, right? So that's the view. So, and then there's practice. The view says, so this was like on your retreat, right? The view comes, and then you have to practice familiarizing yourself, connecting with that perspective, which may be different than, for example, we may have a practice of being selfish and greedy and stubborn and irritable. Is anybody practicing that? Yeah. Okay. You might even have a mantra for that, like screw them, whatever it is, We're seeing that mantra a lot, right? We're seeing negative mantric force in the world right now. It's almost that simple. What are we repeating in our minds? And that becomes our environment. So the view is our mind is the source of the reality that we're experiencing. And therefore, the view is that the more you can get to know your own mind and develop a kind of comfort and friendliness with your own consciousness and your everyday mind, the better able you're going to be to connect to the interpersonal dimension, right? Because if we're screwed up and then we just start going to try to save the world, usually it's a ripple effect. Look at all the people who are trying to save the world right now. Nobody's saying, I want to ruin the world. But they might have an idea that's skewed in the first place. For example, everybody should be the same religion. That's a skewed idea. That's a rigid, fixed idea. We don't need it. So any fixed identity that we have is up for consideration. That's our view. The practice, in this case, we're going to start with a very fundamental practice of mindfulness, which is just tuning in without any big aspiration or expectation. So it's kind of boring. I don't quite put that in the ads yet, but we're thinking about it. And my teacher would have said, if you want to come and get properly bored, you got the right place. But what do we mean by boredom? It's just settling in and stop scurrying around looking for something outside. We experience that as what we call hot boredom. We're kind of anxious and antsy. We invent all kinds of things and jump around from tradition to tradition, movie to movie, relationship to relationship. And we are so bored. But really, that boredom is kind of irritation and frustration. Wouldn't you say? You're not really flattened out yet. So when you give into that a little bit more and stop trying to entertain yourselves all the time, either materially or spiritually, it's called cool boredom, which I like. Being a musician, you can tell why I like that, right? Cool boredom. Just there. Nothing much happening. And you just allow yourself to settle and be present, same way everybody's saying. Ramdas, for those of you who are around, he used to just go, I am loving awareness. Now, if you say that 3 or 4 times, it's kind of like, yeah, baby. But on the 108th repetition of it, you start looking at your watch and what's for lunch. So any practice that we do has discipline and exertion involved. Wouldn't you say? Yoga and any of these practices. There's no kind of easy ride. So we're taking on a challenge by adopting a view that says you have to practice. Now, KD would say, absolutely you have to practice, right? And they have a view that reciting these mantras and repeating them is efficacious for developing a clear state of mind. And there's a lot of kinship there, like the Hanuman Chalisa, which you're going to do, which, Nina, are you going to lead a Hanuman Chalisa? Yeah. So she'll explain it, but if you look at the words of that, it's almost like a Buddhist sadhana. It says, clearing the mirror of your mind. So here's the thing. When we do this kind of practice, we start with a really kind of soft attitude. You see people like, it's gentler than that. And it's friendlier than that. Because why? Because we're already beating ourselves up before we started. Most cases, if you examine the self-talk, the narrative that's dialing through our minds, there's a lot of criticism and harshness there towards ourselves and others. So we start with kindness and gentleness. That's it. If you can't get anywhere else, that's really a good place. But then we dial in a little precision. Okay, let's see, what actually are you doing with that practice? Like I used to see people in the cover of Yoga Journal and in yoga studios like this. Often a very attractive woman, you're just like, okay. And I feel like if you tap them on the shoulder and say, what are you doing? Could they give you a clear answer what the practice is? Oh, I'm just not thinking. I'm just, seeing my colors in my third eye. In other words, what exactly are we doing? And so I think the Buddhists, as Raghu kind of said, a little bit, we emphasize the precision quality of it. And the precision is sharpening, he mentioned prajna, discernment, the sword of prajna, clarity and sort of seeing for yourself. And the Buddha is a perfect example of somebody who did not take other people's word for it on faith, and actually went through quite a powerful experience of exploration. And so it's an interesting thing that we rely heavily on sharpening the intelligence of the students. If you have a teacher that's not doing that, I'd change. That's what I would do. The teacher's role is to sharpen the intelligence of the student and also to introduce methods and practices that have worked for many people for thousands of years. So the topic, I'm known for rambling a bit, but musically and otherwise, but the topic is intriguing, finding harmony in the sacred. So I just thought, let's talk a little bit about that. I thought, well, gee, it's really a musical analogy, isn't it? We can kind of cross our wires here. What do we mean by harmony? So I just thought of a few examples of different kind of musical things that might clarify how we interact with our own situation with each other. The first one is unison. We're all singing the same song. We're singing the same melody. We're saluting to the same flags. We're basically all on the same wavelength, right? So if you get, how many people do we have here? We should probably try a musical example of it. Everybody sing da da da. See, not much to think about there, and we're all together. It's so that's called all one. Metaphysically, we're all singing the same song. Now, harmony. Okay, you guys sing da 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 together. Okay, you have harmony, right? So that's maybe a good analogy for joining views, mixing views, but in a harmonious way, right? From there, it gets more complicated. Counterpoint, right? Counterpoint is, I think, what we have here. And we have all these things here. But some people are saying, we had lunch today and we're talking about faith. So I bet if we went around the room, everybody here would have a different definition of faith. Don't you think? Some people say, no, that's not for me. And some people say, that's my whole reason for being. How many of you think faith is the most essential ingredient for your spiritual practice? Raise your hand if you do. Prajna paramita, the smart element in you, is the mother of all the Buddhas. Isn't that cool? So I always wanted to meet Buddha's mommy. Don't you? I always like to meet everybody's mommy because you learn a lot. And I told one of my teachers, I said, don't you like to meet your students' parents? And he said, I've already met them. Can chew on that. So, we're looking at faith. It could be counterpoint, right? We haven't tried that yet. We did one song with KD that we had one group singing in Sanskrit and one group singing in English. And that's counterpoint. You have two things going on, but they're sort of referring to each other and synchronizing up. Okay? So that's... Now we're going to get a little out, okay? Dissonance. We got a lot of dissonance right now. It's two songs going on, but they're not really going well together. Do you feel that lately? There's two really distinct songs going on, and it's almost like, you want to build a wall between them and say, that's over there and that's over there. So dissonance, but then that leads to another level called chaotic harmony. That's a very sophisticated point of view. The dissonance itself is harmony of a kind. It's something working itself out. But, you have to have a big picture to do that. If you have your own point of view and you're very defensive about your point of view, there's no appreciation of dissonance, right? It just becomes conflict. Then we have, maybe some of you folks will know what a mashup is. Does anybody know what a mashup is? It's just two records playing at once. DJs do this. They have nothing to do with each other. That's like a divorce, and those two people show up at a party together. It's like there's no connection. Nothing's happening. And yet the songs are playing simultaneously. And then, you have the final iteration of sacred harmony. These are all sacred harmony, by the way. Cacophony. You can't make sense out of it. It would be like that scene in Passage to India where she goes up in the jungle and the monkeys are just howling at you. And you don't know, you can't put, or a street scene in New York where the traffic jam and there's just sirens going off. And, does anybody feel that way lately? That's good. So everybody feels more grounded than that, right? Are you saying that? No cacophonies? Oh, this is pretty good. Okay, let's meditate. So, the thing the teachers got together and we had our own little huddle talking about how do we take this beautiful retreat setting and what we learn here and what we cultivate here. It may be, more of a sense of harmony, more of a sense of tranquility, workability, compassion, all those qualities. How do we take them out into the world and mingle those two worlds? So just to be clear, the view of Dharma Moon, my company, is if here's the regular world that we all live in, and here's the kind of sacred world, the spiritual training, there's a bridge between them. There's a bridge. And we said we're going to set up a school on the bridge. And we're going to have as much respect for the everyday world as we do for our own sort of more internal environment. So we're managing the internal and the intrapersonal and the interpersonal. We're managing career and practice. We're managing family and retreats. This training is for people who are living in that world. Every once in a while, if you're me, somebody comes up, they have clearly a monastic karma. And you go, okay, see you later. They're going up the mountain. It happens. But the vast majority of us, I think, have some kind of family life, some kind of career, work life. Who is a renunciate completely? Has no connection with any of those things. Not even a single person. So we're householder yogis. That's what we call us. That's what we are, householder yogis. So the teachings that we're giving are for householder yogis. And they should apply immediately. Whatever I say in here, from my point of view, you should be able to walk out that door and apply it immediately. So we pack a lunchbox. If you want a snack when you go home, you could actually just be mindful walking down the path back to the dining room. You can practice any time this practice that we're about to do. All it involves is coming back to the present awareness. It's so idiot simple. So if you're me, a lot of your life is taking toys away from people and just reducing to this kind of simplicity of present awareness and being willing to cultivate that. That's the foundation. With that foundation, you can successfully cultivate almost anything else. You can cultivate compassion, wisdom, skillful means, But if your mind is doing this all day, every day, that's the first thing to work with. So I wanted to introduce the practice of mindfulness meditation, which is it escaped from the barn of Buddha's teachings, and it made its way into pop culture. Gwyneth Paltrow, calm headspace. These are huge. Djokovic, the world champion tennis player, everybody's doing the mindful thing. Okay. So every once in a while, I try to get into it a little deeper with people, but I still find that many people don't even have the basic practice, a good instruction in that. How many of you have practiced mindfulness meditation? So I call it the universal mixer. Even if you're doing your mantras and if you're doing your sadhanas and if you're doing your yoga practice, the mindfulness thread goes through all of it. So here's a definition, a working definition that, would correlate with mindfulness-based stress reduction, any of the kind of more secular, that's the word they use, secular applications of practice. And it is paying attention to a single stimuli. So at one point in concentration, usually using the breath, and at the same time maintaining awareness of whatever arises without judgment. Now you might say, oh, yeah, I did that already. I did a workshop at Kripalu. I did that already. What's next? What's happening? Yeah, here's what's next. Paying attention to a single stimulus while maintaining non-judgmental awareness of whatever arises in your mind and in your environment. Okay, I got it. What do I do now? Pay attention. So you see what I mean? There's a rinse and repeat quality to it. That's why you do thousands of mantras. Rinse and repeat, because our mind is habituated and familiar with blah, 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 blah. All kinds of stuff. We're kind of hooked in a way on thinking stuff. And when you sit first, I look at people's faces and I feel bad for them because I know they've just hit a brick wall and they're looking for something else. And it's just them. We don't give any toys, and it's just them sitting on the cushion. It's your mind. It's your cushion. It's your world. What is it? How is it? It's like doctors used to touch patients. Do you remember those days, or are you too young for it? Doctors used to feel your pulses and how are you? What's happening? So mindfulness has this quality of touching in, grounding yourself into your body, which is great. The yoga practices that we're doing are very helpful. And coming back. So here's the deal. Here's what it's not about in terms of this tradition. It's not about trying to stabilize a high state of being. Because think about that. We're smart. We said we're prajna people. It's a trap. It's a drug. It's just, and you can do it, by the way. It's not hard, actually. David, what? Oh, yeah. We can go away into, if you want to know more about this, read my book, Awakening from the Daydream, all the 6 realms of samsara. We can go to very high states, but here's the problem. They're not permanent. That's the problem. And when the causes and conditions wear out, we crash. It's just like common sense. So in this case, we're just looking for stability. And building resilience and stability. But think about it. What qualities do not have resilience and stability that we engage frequently? Stress does not. Anxiety does not. Depression does not. Impatience does not. Selfishness does not. Greed does not. They destabilize us. So this practice is universal. It's been taught for thousands of years. And I don't quite know how to say this, but it's kind of going to the base. If any of you have done any kind of training with physical things, you want a strong core, a strong base. So mindfulness is a foundational practice. So I'm going to just give a short iteration of how you do it. Most of you will have heard this before. I'm going to Asheville on Monday. Never been there. Some of you are from there. And I'm going to hang out and see what's going on there. And I'm going to teach a course at the Center for Conscious Living and Dying on Friday night in Asheville. And I said to them, why don't we do the 4 foundations of mindfulness? Because everybody's talked about mindfulness, but it's much more nuanced. It's mindfulness of body. It's mindfulness of feelings. It's mindfulness of mental continuum. It's mindfulness of phenomenal display. And they just looked at me and they went like, it's Asheville, man. Everybody's done mindfulness, you know. So I said, well, what do they want to talk about? And I have this other book called Creativity, Spirituality, and Making a Buck. And that's what they want to talk about in Asheville. So the course is going to be called How to Make a Living Doing What You Love. Oh, everybody looked up. Well, here's how to do it. First, practice mindfulness. Then there's more. Closer to mic? Can you hear okay in the back? Yeah, okay, but it's reverberating quite a lot up here, so that's why. Okay. Okay, is that better? Yeah, okay. Have you been hearing me okay? Okay, good. In the back they're saying okay. So there's more. But personally, I learned this practice the way I'm going to teach it to you. In 1970, that's when, and it's a funny world that we're in right now, because that's when I met Trungpa Rinpoche, who was my teacher. And at the same time, Ram Dass was coming here, and they were crossing over. I was at retreats in 1971 that Rinpoche and Ram Dass were doing together in Vermont and Colorado. So there's a real kinship here. That's 54 years ago. You know, that's a long time ago. But since then, we've watched how the Dharma, these various Dharmas, have translated into the Western culture. I'm an archivist of this. I'm interested in this. And there have been some mashups. There have been some cacophony. There's been some dissonance. And there's been some roadkill, I would say. You know, things that didn't fit well. So I feel we have to start fresh. But there's nowhere else to go for these traditional teachings. We are the generation that has to bridge it. And hopefully you cross that bridge and it's yours at that point. You're not doing some Tibetan thing. You're not trying to be an Indian or a Tibetan or a, Japanese person. You're an American, you're a European, and you're a practitioner. And you own it. There's no imitation going on at that point. So this practice has 3 simple steps, okay? First one is called taking your seat. Oh, wow. I mean, it's deep in itself, because some of us are like, we pull ourselves together physically and take a beautiful seat. Now, three variations here. Cross-legged on the floor somehow, kneeling, or sitting in a chair. Sitting in a chair is totally cool. It's not the compensation. It's completely legit seat. But there are certain things in common, which is that we can just rest our hands on our knees, sort of have a strong sense of connecting your butt to the cushion or to the chair, so you're grounded. All right, starting with the body. Yeah. Coming up from the base, a nice long spine. Yogis know what we're talking about, right? Not a straight spine along. Whoa. And that naturally roll your shoulders back a little bit and drop them. Tuck your chin in a little bit. And then relax your jaw. Yeah. Soften your palate. And then we're going to try a variation on this practice. Is done different ways, but in this variation, we're going to leave our eyes open. This is going to be unusual for some of you. So the gaze is called a half-lidded gaze. It's a soft downward gaze looking about 6 feet on the floor in front of you. And relax the gaze. It's a diffused gaze, seeing without looking. So the principle there is that we are open to our environment. We're not going into some kind of inner garden state, secret inner place. We're just being present. But at the same time, we're not looking around and, the gaze is resting. All the sense perceptions are like that. They're open and awake, but softened. And when you do that, you can just touch in a little bit with how do you feel? What's your mood? How's your body? You're going to do this with your body, partners. So that's the first step, taking your seat. The second step, can we bring the monitors down just a little bit? Just bring the monitors down a little bit. The second step is to place your attention on your breath. So a couple of things about that. We're talking about the natural breath. This is not pranayama. You may have done some pranayama today. Just where you're breathing right now, but your attention is there. That's where your mind is, okay? And the breath is going in and out quite naturally. And you're just being aware of it. You're simply being with it. Your life just got really simple. If your breath deepens naturally, it's okay, but there's no attempt to manipulate the breath. The third step happens when you notice what is called in neuroscience now mind wandering. They have a name for it. You're thinking about something else, aren't you? Hello. I'm thinking about dinner. I'm thinking about my kids. I'm thinking about changing careers. I'm thinking about this. What's this Buddhism thing? I'm thinking about what I have to do when I get back home. I'm thinking about my childhood. I'm randomly accessing the past and the future, but my mind is occupied with mind wandering. When you notice that, this is the key moment. That's a little flicker of awareness that happens. You notice it. And just simply label it thinking. You say the word thinking to yourself. So you're identifying the phenomenon, thinking, and then bring your attention back to the breath. So we don't have to repress the thought. We don't have to follow it down the rabbit hole. We just notice it and come back to the breath. Okay, so let's just sit for 10 minutes together like that, okay? And then we'll have a little chance to talk about it. You can stretch a little if you like. I usually don't tell too many stories. But for whatever reason, something just popped into my mind that I wanted to share. That is the colliding of these two worlds that we're talking about. So, in this varied existence, I've been all over in the music business, in the film business, what we call the spiritual industrial complex now, the Dharma business. But I had a nice heyday back in the 70s where I was working in the music business in Los Angeles. And I wrote a song called Midnight at the Oasis, which, it was fun for me too. And not only that, it was my first introduction to what at the time I thought was Nirvana, not the band, but like checks coming in the mail unexpectedly, and things like that. In 1978, I left Los Angeles with a young child, a baby, who was just born, Ethan, who is now a Dharma teacher himself. And we moved to a meditation center in Vermont, which I was the director of. And so my whole life shifted. Later, I ended up back and forth between the music business and the Dharma world to this day. And then thanks to my dear friend, KD, I can do both at the same time. It's so cool. I'm so happy about that. Don't have to split it. But at a certain point, I wanted to go back to, there's a guy named Lenny Waronker who produced the record. He was the head of Warner Brothers Records. And I wanted to thank him because he mentored people. He brought a lot of great artists to the front. And on the way to his office, this is years later, I stopped at this store and bought a set of antique sake cups. Beautiful. I didn't even know he drinks sake or would get it. And I wrote a little inscription on it. And I left it with the secretary. I didn't want to embarrass him by giving it to him in person, but we talked and we hung out. And I thanked him for, helping me and for recognizing me, which we all need. We need to be seen and heard. And I wrote on it, past, present, and future in a drop of sake. Thank you for financing my Buddhist education. So, in your journey to combine your worlds, I understand we have till 4:15, is that correct? Okay, so I thought we could talk a little bit. I've covered a bit of ground. Think of it as an hors d'oeuvre. There's a lot more to talk about. You'll have a lot more courses and stuff this weekend. And I'm around. I like talking to people. Anybody will tell you that. Get David at lunch or dinner. He'll blab your ear off. So don't be shy. But if you have any questions now for the group, if you could just come to this mic stand here and line up here in the order in which you arrive. And don't be shy. The question you have is probably helpful for other people too. And maybe you could introduce yourself. It's right there. Yeah. Yep. No? Oh, okay. It's not right there.
Hi, I'm Chris. So this is kind of the question I came here with, and it's talking about kind of building one's personal foundation. So I'm kind of at a point now where I feel like the knowledge, inspiration, experience I get from meditation, mindfulness, interpersonal experience, I feel like it doesn't become real or tangible until it kind of goes through, until I'm able to rationalize it. It has to go through like a rational lens for me to consider it. Oh, this is real. I can add this to my foundation. And so kind of in doing so, my foundation is more of a philosophical framework. And at times I feel like this is great. This is a great foundation. This gives me support. This gives me strength. But then at the same time, equally, I feel like I've built a trap that is just kind of there to appeal or appease to my rational mind.
Yeah.
Like, how important is it that we are able to rationalize this, or how much of this do we just let go and just experience it?
Everybody here loves you immediately, Chris, because you're asking a question that we all have. Wait, don't go away yet, just in case, all right? And, we say first thought, best thought. Have you ever heard that expression? First thought, best thought. So I thought when you were saying it's a smart mouse that builds its own mousetrap. And that's what we're doing. We're kind of figuring out how to contain our karmic patterns and put them into a place where we can make a connection with it. But I don't think there is any formula, and nobody else can do it for you or iterate it for you. So you're the mouse finds itself alone at the end of the day with its cleverness, with its brilliance, with its heart. And the mouse is a happy little mouse at that point because it knows it's a mouse. Yeah. So the main thing we could say here this week, don't be too hard on ourselves. we're just getting started with all this stuff. And, historically, people who went into these practices got tougher and tougher on themselves. There's people like Milarepa and the Buddha even as they developed and progressed spiritually, they became more and more intense, you could say. And then maybe, depending how you read it, something opens or pops and you stop beating yourself up. And, and there's a little bit of relaxing that it's okay at that point for the teachers to say, just relax a little bit. It's okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Scott, and I have two questions, if that's okay. The first one is, sometimes when I'm meditating, say it's 30 minutes, for the first bit, it's like you were describing earlier, the mental checklist, what I need to do tomorrow, all those things.
Can you get up on the mic too, Scott? Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me hold it. Okay. So as I start meditating, sometimes early on, it's the mental checklist of what I've got to do and just the normal chatter, and that'll quiet down after a while. And then it'll be almost dreamlike. Like if it's just weird stuff that might be in a dream. It feels like progress, but in the same sense, I'm still thinking, So what's that about? And if I could, I'll go ahead and give the second question. Answer either one or both if you like. But the other one is...
Whoa.
Okay, sorry.
I am loving awareness. So I think I know exactly what you're talking about from personal, there's a layer of mental continuum that's almost like, whose mind is this? Like right before you go to sleep, you feel it. In dreams, it's like, oh my God, I've got a whole nother life there. I have like a house there. It's on a beach. I can show you where it is. So as you are able to pop it in this practice, pop it. Don't go scuba diving in there. Just come back to the breath. Okay. And most of us, when we do mindfulness meditation, are gone at least 90% of the time. Scientifically, they say more than 50% of the time is mind wandering. So that's just deeper mind wandering from the point of view of this practice. Just come back. Just come. And if you're walking down here and you sort of see the sky and you go like, oh my God, the cosmos, man, it's the universe. It's the multiverse. It's unbelievable. The colors, the light. Label it thinking, come back. It's dastardly. But I did just want to share with you, my teacher was from Tibet, and he just, for whatever reason, he studied English in Oxford, so he had an Oxonian accent off of a Tibetan thing into an American thing. He loved the Southern accent. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. Let's let somebody else have your second question, okay?
Hi there. My name is Andrew. Sorry.
Yeah.
Put it back. So my question was, how do you get vulnerable with yourself?
How do you what?
How do you get vulnerable with yourself? Like,
how do you get vulnerable with yourself?
Like when you're alone, alone, and you're like being vulnerable in a relationship is a way to grow. But before you get into a relationship, how do you grow?
How do you open more?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You're going to hate me, but mindfulness meditation would be good. Because you're developing patience and kind of a sense of familiarity with yourself that's accepting and not rejecting. So it is, in a way, making love to yourself. It's being intimate with yourself because it's just you and your mind, and you're going like, okay, hi, Andrew, what's up? And also you develop a kind of willingness to be where you are. And then our true nature, they say, Andrew, and you and I can figure this out as we go, is that vulnerability, that tenderness, that open-heartedness. It's like who we actually are when we're at rest. Do you feel that?
Sometimes.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. And then patience and exertion, that's why you have to practice. It's so, what I'm saying is so idiot simple in a way, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the trick is you have to practice it. And I think all of us here, all the teachers would say the same thing about that. Probably that would be a common thread. Thank you. Where do you live?
Ohio.
Okay. Swing State.
Thanks.
I'll say no more.
Hello.
Hi.
My name is Tasnova. I feel like I need to still adjust this. Tasnova. So one of my hangups with meditation is often giving a lot of attention to pain in my body. And I was just observing with the 10-minute meditation now and like witnessing some specific textures of pain really get my attention, like itching. I want to itch. And then during the meditation, I like felt the peace and it was like a little bit of a detachment from it. But the itch came back again and I kept surrendering to itching. And so I haven't found like a way to detach from the chaos as well as like that airy, flighty, like I don't have a body kind of thing. Like I what I'm understanding is mindful meditation is right in the middle of accepting the chaos, but also being grounded to
and
feel
accepting
it.
that you do have a body.
Right. Okay.
I mean, think about what a strange thing to argue about. Right? I mean, I got together with my friends, but I didn't have a body, so we didn't go to the restaurant with the way they had planned. It's okay, and this is an embodied practice. Now, from another point of view, there's the body is itching, but also the mind is itching, right? And from a certain point of view, your whole mind is an itch. It's just saying scratch something because I'm bored. I need something to scratch. So if you could try not to scratch every itch, that'd be good.
Okay.
Take the middle way. If you're like, I saw a picture of a monk who was meditating and his face was swollen to twice its size because he has gotten his concentration to the point where he's able to block that. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about, I have an itch. Okay. Thinking, that guy said I shouldn't scratch every itch. Thinking, come back. So just be willing to come back to your body. That's what you're coming back to, by the way. So give it a good kiss goodnight tonight. Okay. It's good. The body is good. Right? It's great, isn't it?
It is. I'm
Did you take the yoga class this morning?
I did.
Okay.
I did. Thank you. I will say the thinking that repeating of the thinking is really cool. Like before I would just I just breathe and calm down. But the thinking really...
That puts a little dot on the I.
Yeah.
That's what it is. You don't have to do it, but it's helpful to sort of punctures that discursive ramble a little bit, And to be clear, we don't need to repress the thoughts. That's a different tradition where you're trying to squish, like you have a fly swatter out, or I call it the arcade game meditation, thought, just gently thinking and come back. So we can touch and go. That's what we call it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. It's funny. Everybody has a different body too. Have you noticed that?
Hi, my name is Jordan. Hello, my name is Jordan.
Jordan.
And I have chronic pain. And when I meditate, these feelings come like right to the forefront. There's no distractions. And a lot of the time I can sit with them and sort of, just see them and allow them and not judge them. But then sometimes they feel completely overwhelming. And I was wondering if you had any advice for how to reground myself, how to work with the overwhelming feeling.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. It's going to be very helpful for a lot of us. So the general prescription that we say is not too tight and not too loose in terms of how you apply the method. So if you need to shift your posture, you should.
Okay.
Now, if you go to some practice centers, right, here's the Zen approach to shifting your posture. Don't move! If it floats your boat, it's good, you know. And then here's the libertarian approach or the New Age approach. Just lie down, stick your feet up in the air, roll over, be distracted. So the middle way is do your best to have a stable posture. Are you able to sit on a chair?
Yes.
Fine. And then when you need to shift, just shift and don't make a big deal about it. In other words, let your body tell you what respect your body.
Okay.
Okay. Does that help?
Yeah, that helps a lot.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
In cutting through spiritual materialism,
What's your name?
Nick.
Nick.
It's highly advised to pick a tradition or a lineage and settle within it. However, myself and maybe others here have only found any of this online and don't have access to direct transmission from a specific lineage.
Mm-hmm.
What would your advice be?
Thank you. That's a really seminal question these days because, you know, I think we grew up in a time when very accomplished teachers we were able to connect with them and have personal relationships. I was thinking about this morning, have a personal relationship with a teacher. That preceded me having a lineage connection. So that was the first step, is finding somebody you can connect with. Here, we have a beautiful setup here because you can sample. This is like a spiritual smorgasbord in a way, isn't it? But very harmonious and friendly. And if something, magnetizes you, you can move towards it. So, for example, if you like chanting, if you like the Bhakti practice, it's easy to find a community and a setting to do that in. You can do it online and live. You can gravitate towards the people who hold that view, who present it. So I think it's possible in the beginning to be very broad, very open. Check it out. Don't dive too soon into something. When something kind of connects, then you can go deeper. That helps you go deeper. And then at a certain point to retain that openness, that kind of sense of not being, stuck or judgmental about others in that way.
And do you believe that direct transmission, as in being taught in person, is highly important?
These are really cogent questions because I do, actually. But at a certain level, a certain stage, and that's the tradition I was, raised into, is we have living teachers, embodied teachers, and that's really kind of unnerving. The person's right, like when Ram Dass is here, he's just right there. You go up to him, you go like, a lot of people went up to it, the cafeteria went, that's it. You're contacting somebody who has made a serious connection with the kind of quality of mind that you're seeking. So that's called transmission. You use that word, transmission. And at a certain point, it's probably an important. In my world, my view, it becomes important. But so much of it is carried through the sangha, the community. So the sangha can also give transmission, and the Dharma itself can also give transmission, just studying the teachings, even online.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. Okay, let's just take these two, and then we have to last two, okay?
Hi, my name is Lisa.
We're David and Lisa.
I know, this happened last time.
We're always still David
We
and
are
Lisa.
David and Lisa every time.
Every time.
Every time.
Okay.
I don't quite have this worked out, so it's going to be coming out as I'm speaking in real time. This question of harmony and then also devotion has been circling in my mind around my work. And I work in the field of psychedelics. And
it's a field?
It is. Don't tell anyone from the DEA that I said that. So when I'm working, I feel a very devotional kind of quality to my work. And, but I've also been witness to and personally experienced, especially with some, what I would call master teacher plants like iboga or ayahuasca. There is a realm portal. There's the ancestors, especially the Bwiti people with iboga, come through on that medicine. And I'm sort of really curious, maybe it's more as a cosmology question of like harmony of those experiences with like real world practices.
Yeah.
And what would be the Buddhist perspective on harmony between those two things?
So first thought is, where is your mind right now? And if you can tap that question, there's an immediate clearing of any searching that happens. The question will just simply dissolve.
Mm.
So where is your mind right now?
I'm sort of noticing people might be looking at me. And so there's a part of me that's aware of that. There's a part of me that's trying to be very present and looking and listening to you at the same time.
It's good, right?
Sure.
Is there something else?
Is there something else? Maybe yes and no.
Well, we don't have to answer today. We're David and Lisa, so next year.
Yeah. We're going to be David and Lisa again.
And then we'll go
next year.
You come back in a year if we're all still on the planet, so to speak. You tell us, is there something else? And what is it? Because we want to know. Everybody here is really curious. What else is there?
Uh-huh.
In my present explorations, there's memory. Jung wrote, Freud, I think, memory, dreams, and reflections. And we live in a shadow world. I think psychedelics can highlight that, no? That we're in a shadow.
Yes.
We're not really with the actual immediacy of experience.
Maybe.
What else?
That's what I'm asking you.
But I don't take them, so you should ask your shaman.
Well...
But I would like to talk to your shaman. Is that possible?
Yes.
Okay, well,
okay.
Bookmark.
All right.
And I've done all that stuff, and I like it. All right, this has to be quick. So, sorry. We have 1 minute.
Okay, I'll try to be quick. So, hi, I'm Vinny. My question is, like, how do you practice mindfulness at work? I have a corporate job. Most of the times when I'm making presentation, I try to focus on, come back to breath, sometimes chant, but still like my mind gets really dense most often, especially having tough conversations. So how do you really practice and work office spaces?
Yeah. So in a nutshell, which we can do, this is called post-meditation practice. Isn't that interesting? So you meditate, let's say, I hope everybody can do this practice 20 minutes a day, 5 times a week for a month, and see if you like it, if you haven't been doing it. If you don't practice, it's like going to the gym. Nothing will happen, you know. You just will pull it. You'll suck in your stomach when you're looking in the mirror. That's what will happen. So try 20 minutes a day. But then the other 23 hours and 40 minutes, there's a post-meditation technique, which is simply flash back into a present awareness, no matter where you are, just for a second. So if you don't have to do any big load-up thing, just, oh, I'm here. I'm at my computer. Feel the present moment. Click into it. And then drop it. Don't try to sustain it. That's called the everyday practice. You can do it, Thich Nhat Hanh teaches maybe take a breath or something if you want. Take 3 conscious breaths. How about that? Have a short mantra, whatever brings you back. But it's just kind of flashing awareness is the post-meditation practice. Like we're doing it right now, right? Good luck with it.
Thank you.
Yeah. We all have to do that. We got 23 hours unaccounted for spiritual practice. And then there's dream practice.
Oh.
So, use the whole clock. We got to go. I want to say one last thing in closing, which is invite you to just check out dharmamoon.com. And our teacher training program this fall is listed there. We have cards about it and so forth. Please come visit. Our podcast is hosted by Be Here Now Network. We're very tied in at the hip here. And also on September 3rd, myself and Duncan Trussell, who I know some of you like Duncan, are going to do a free info session for our fall teacher training called Imposter Syndrome and Becoming a Meditation Teacher. So if you're free, it's free. If you're free September 3rd, come and join us. And that's it. Thank you so much, Raghu.